This episode is sponsored by Santos Bros Plumbing. Are you in need of a dependable and effective plumber you can trust? Look no further than Santos Bros Plumbing, your trusted local plumbers in Paso Robles, California. Call them now at 805-360-4679. That's Santos Bros Plumbing. This episode is sponsored by Western Janitor Supply. They have cleaning supplies and equipment for any workplace. Call today at 805-238-2112. They provide an extensive line of chemicals, paper products, and floor equipment. Again, that's Western Janitor Supply, located in downtown Paso Robles. This episode is brought to you by the White Wave Wellness. Choose to live a healthy and fulfilling life. Wellness is more than being free from illness. It is a process of change and growth towards a mentally and physically healthy lifestyle. Reach out to Jennifer Hale to learn more about how this water can change your life. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Quick transparency, this is my fifth take on trying to make this possible. This ad before the video that you are wanting to watch right now, so I won't take up too much of your time. I just wanted to express how I made this all possible. I created the Paso Robles podcast studio for people to be able to use as an outlet, as a platform. This show became possible because I found the need to put myself in the hot seat and have those conversations with people and promote them as well. So if you guys ever find yourselves in a need to start a podcast, I'm here to consult. I'm here to produce. Feel free to reach out, easyfmedia@gmail.com, or find me on social media anywhere pretty much. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. I don't want to keep rambling on too much. Thank you guys for watching. This is the Paso Robles podcast, and I have today Nate, what's your last name again?
Santos.
Nate Santos, because Santos Bros Plumbing.
There you go. Yes.
So thank you for coming in, and I wanna touch on everything, right? Where you started, where you're at, and where you're going.
Sweet.
And anything else in between you want to share.
Okay.
This is more about you in general and not anything specific. So if you bring forward whatever you want during the conversation,
all right,
whatever feels right.
For sure.
I know some of the things that were told to me about you is you used to train horses.
Yeah.
I'm actually interested to hear more on that to start.
Totally. Yeah.
And then we can go from there, because I remember Pioneer Parade, and were you part of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I know who's behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So tell me, what's that about? How did it start? And is it still going? Is it not going? I know pandemic changed a few things for everybody.
It did. It was crazy.
Yeah. So
So it actually, it does it. All ties in together, like you said. Mm-hmm. You were mentioning about the plumbing. You're curious to know about the horses before the plumbing, and the horses came about in my life before the plumbing. So, like you said, my name is Nate Santos. I was born down in San Luis. Have been here on the Central Coast pretty much my whole life. From elementary school to junior high, I was mostly down in South County, 5 Cities area. Lived in Santa Maria for a little bit, and then I landed my freshman year of high school, summer of 2005, up in Atascadero. Went to Atascadero High School, and the reason we landed in Atascadero because my dad, he sings música ranchera, estilo mariachi. Mm-hmm. His name is Manuel Enrique. I don't know if you've ever heard of him or seen him around.
I'm terrible with mariachi names.
Okay. Well, he has sang a couple times here at the fair on a couple different stages, a headliner stage and frontier stage. Okay. He's performed there with a mariachi, and he's opened up for a few people back in the day. He opened up for El Coyote Su Banda. I want to say, is it Graciela y sus balas de plata? That was back in the day. He opened up for Rogelio Martinez there. He's done other shows down in like Nukuyama. Opened up for Rogelio Martinez and Los Inquietos back in the day. Then he's also opened up for Banda Machos and some other people at some other rodeos. Last year he did some shows out in the Valley. I can't remember some of the artists that he opened up for over there, singing on horseback. So he does. For those of you that aren't familiar with this type of thing, so there's this show where the mariachi band is playing the music. You got all the guitars, the violins, the trumpets, and my dad being a lead vocalist, he's singing the song, and he'll perform on horseback, and they're Spanish-bred horses, and they're dancing, kind of like Antonio Aguilar or Ezequiel Peña, if you heard of those guys.
Or Vicente Fernandez in his movies.
Yes, Vicente Fernandez in movies. And it's funny, it's actually my dad, and if you'd ever want to have him be a guest, he'd love to do something like this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He has a story of like how he got in. He's always loved music as a little boy. Since he was a little kid, he always liked music. And when he was young, I don't know how old he was, but he was old enough to be able to go to the Cine, the movie theater back then, and it was back like a projector screen. Like they'd get together somewhere in the center of town, and they had the projector, and they'd play the movie type of thing. That's how I envisioned it. At least I don't know those details. He said so back when I was a kid, so that's what I imagined.
They just put a sheet down on the wall or something.
Yeah,
or on the wall itself.
Or on the wall itself, exactly. And so he said there was a movie that Vicente Fernandez that came out, and in that movie, Vicente Fernandez sings on a white horse. And I think it's Serenata that he takes to, he goes to serenade one of his love interests in the movie or whatever. He says that night he had a dream of himself singing on horseback on a white horse. And that dream, he's made that dream come true, which is pretty cool. He used to have a white horse that he would perform with.
Yeah. So did you get a chance to train the horses along with him? We
did. So that's what I was saying back, how we landed in Atascadero was for that reason. My dad's career with his music and performing with horses, back during that time, we got a 2-acre ranch in Atascadero, north end of Atascadero, kind of by the outlets. And he bought his first horse, and it was a learning experience from the first horse that he bought, and then he got other horses, and we learned that there's specific breeds that are better for that sort of performance type of thing. Like I said, they're Spanish bred horses, so he started doing that right around that time. So that was 2005. By a few years later, 2008, 2009, the whole economy took a dip.
Yeah,
the housing crisis, and we almost lost the ranch. Things got really tight, and so his career with that kind of went in the back burner a little bit because people weren't spending that much money on having extravagant parties. So we started training horses, and I've always been an animal lover, and working with him and his music and going to different ranches to check out different horses. I was like, oh man, I want to do this. I want to breed horses. Like, this seems like a lot of fun. Yeah. So I started doing that. Like when I was fresh out of high school, within a few years, I bought my first horse, and I bought some mares, and I started breeding. And then because we weren't doing a whole lot of music at the moment, we started training other people's horses. So we did that for a little bit as a team with him, my brother, and I, the three of us working together, cleaning the stalls, maintaining the horses, showering them, braiding their mane and their tails. There are a lot of maintenance, and then having them like saddled up and ready for him, and then doing groundwork with the horses, and he's riding, and then we're working with the cues on the ground, training them to dance and stuff.
Yeah. Did you ever have anybody else wanting you to you say you train horses? Was it just specifically your horses, or did you like have somebody else bring their horse and you start working with them?
So it actually started off just as our horses for ourselves, his horses, and then in the area here in North County, there's not a whole lot of us that do that. And so some of the guys that do have their horses, they're like, well, instead of sending my horse to get trained somewhere in LA or in the valley, somewhere up north, you're right here. How about I just pay you? And at first we're kind of like, no, we're not really trying to be like horse trainers, but we're like, hey, well, you know what? There's not a whole lot of stuff going on with the music. Let's get into it. And it's, we're already doing it. And we learned more as we went. So we did that for a little bit. We didn't do it for a long time, and we didn't do a whole lot of horses. We probably did maybe like, I don't know, maybe around less than 10, more than 5 around there that were not our horses that we trained for other people. And they were pretty happy that with the outcome that their horse got through the process they went through. It takes, several months, sometimes years, depending on the level of training you want to get the horse.
Yeah. And did you, so as you're growing up with your dad, training the horses and learning all this, you guys are learning together, right?
Yeah.
Or did he know how to train horses before you kind of joined with him?
So he also like love for animals, and more specifically horses. So he had horses back home in Mexico.
Okay.
So he as far as like horseback riding, he already knew that.
I feel like our family, they all say they've had a farm, they grew beans, they bartered, like they did all that stuff, and horses are always included.
Yeah. So and back home in Mexico, my dad, his grandpa was like the guy in the little town. Like they had the property, they had the ranch, they had the crops and all that. So my dad grew up working around animals. My dad's out of all of his cousins, he's more towards the younger side of them. And so some family stuff happened. Grandpa got a little sick, and just different times they were just investing a lot of money into medicine for him to get better. So by the time he was growing up, there wasn't as much left as like his older brothers experienced. Like, oh, Grandpa used to have the nicest, horses, and he had the most cattle and stuff like that. But he's always been around it since he was a little kid. So he just pretty much just picked up on it again over here.
Okay. So when you got involved, he already knew a lot of that already.
He had a lot of the hands-on experience, and we learned a lot more. You know what? Even back then, man, this was like, I want to say close to 20 years ago now, maybe a little bit less, a little over 15. Since we got that property in Atascadero, YouTube University, man, like he learned a lot from YouTube. Like back then, like it was less common back then. Like now you hear it all the time, YouTube University.
Yeah, go on YouTube, just learn something.
Yeah, all the time. Whatever you want to learn about on anything, any subject, you can learn about it on YouTube. And so he would talk to his friends that were also horse owners, and they would kind of, give each other tips and pointers back and forth how to do this and how to do that. He had one buddy that was training horses that came and was training one of our horses, and my dad would just watch him. And then he started implementing those same tricks on another horse. And then I remember back then we had a desktop, like the big square monitors, not a laptop. Yeah. It was in our living room, like office space desk where we would use it to do our homework sometimes. And then he would spend hours on there on YouTube just watching a bunch of different videos, learning about the history. And I learned about the history too. And just to share a little bit about the horse history, the Spanish horses are war horses. I don't know if you knew that.
I mean, you hear Spanish horse, you think of the paintings of all the Spanish that came over here, because they're all European. And all the horses aren't original here, right?
No,
they all came from Europe.
A lot of them are derived from the Arab horse, Arabian horses.
Oh yeah.
So even the Spanish horse is derived from the Arabian horse.
Yeah, but I didn't know that the Spanish are specifically like war horses.
They were war horses, so they got a really cool history with that. And I was just actually talking to a client about this the other day when was like, I read your story on your website. So tell me about the horses.
Yeah.
So I started telling him, and I was, man, once you ask me about horses, man, as you could tell, I'll go on about horses, man. And so what I describe is envision this, you've seen probably some of the Lord of the Rings, 300, those style old movies when they're battling on horseback.
Yeah.
Imagine, typically it was two nations. They meet up on different hillsides. There's an open valley. And you have these riders facing their opposers, and they're facing death. And no matter how ready you are and how much you train for war, man, when you're facing death and you're going to go to war, you feel something. You're anxious, you're excited, nervous, what have you. Horses are very sensitive to energy and vibrations, and so they feel the tension themselves in the air before they, the first arrow is thrown, before they finally charge or what have you. So because the horses are uneasy and restless, they taught them to march in place, which is where the dancing comes from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if you're nervous or something, you do some jumping jacks to get out of the way. Or
you're antsy and you're moving around. Yeah, exactly like that.
Interesting. And that's how, it's crazy.
It's a trip, huh? Yeah. People wouldn't think that. And then we've been criticized a couple times in some different community events where people are unfamiliar with what we're doing. Like, oh my God, they beat their horses to get them to do that. And that's not the case.
I have heard, I don't think I believe it because I know other horse trainers that don't do the dancing, but do you see them, they post social media and stuff like that. And I'm not saying they're only posting the good stuff, but they post a lot of stuff. I'm they are showing love to the horse pretty much 24/7.
Yeah.
Unless the horse gets a little attitude and
you come see our horses that we show, man. And they're so well kept. They got shiny coats. They have a long mane down to their chest.
Yeah.
If you're mistreating or not maintaining that animal, they're not gonna look as good as they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to really kind of get irritated when people would say that. I used to get mad. I'm just you know what? Now I'm it's just with all due respect to the word, it's just ignorance, lack of knowledge of how all this works and stuff.
Imagine having a podcast back then and having him sit down and explain this over a video podcast. How more people would understand? Oh, it's not that, it's not the bad stuff.
It's the day of information, man. It's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you're ever interested in having him on, he'd love to do something like this.
I definitely want to have him on.
He'd be a little bit more on the Spanish side. I don't know how fluent you are with your Spanish.
Yo puedo.
¿Sí puedes?
Yeah.
Sí se puede.
A veces hay palabras que no voy a poder usar, entonces I'll switch over to English for a second.
That'll work.
Para atrás al español.
Yeah. Spanglish.
Yeah. It's funny because growing up, I remember. I think about it a lot. When did my subconscious, that voice in my head, turn to English? Because I remember as a kid learning Spanish, like reading Spanish books. I remember like almost drowning at like a lake or something. It's like auxilio, instead of help. Yeah. I said it in Spanish and I remember that so vividly. But when I have my thoughts in my head, it's in English now.
Mine too.
So when did that happen?
And you know what? I've thought about that because people would have asked, like, what's your dominant language? Like English or Spanish? Like, and I'm like, I just default English. And the thought in my head, like when I think in myself, in my head, like you said, subconscious, my thoughts are in English. Yeah. And at one point, because my first language, I'm assuming with you as well, was Spanish. Yeah. So I spoke Spanish, like my parents spoke Spanish. I'm the first generation born here, Mexican-American. I'm the oldest of 30-some grandkids. Yeah. So when my parents were like, first got married and like all their siblings, they're barely here. They're barely learning English. So my first language was Spanish until I went to school. Yeah, yeah, and I even remember like being in first or second grade, and I remember, I don't know if I never asked my mom, and I don't think I want to ask, is like, was I a special kid? Because I was separated from the rest of the group, really? And they would be showing me Spanish books and teach me Spanish, and I'm like, and I asked that person that was teaching me, was like, can I start learning English? I had to fit. I don't remember. Like again, it was second grade. Was that here in Paso?
Here in Paso. Oh, okay. So in my head, I'm like, okay, maybe we were learning English and it wasn't sticking. So they were still making sure like I was learning something. I don't know. It didn't make.
That's what you're saying.
But what I remember is me saying, "Hey, can I read that English book?" And I remember her saying, "It's like, are you sure?" Like, yeah, I want to start reading English. So I don't know what program it was back in the day, and I don't want to ask because worst case scenario, there's something off about me, because I remember also having a tutor come home during during the summer or something.
Oh, really?
And back then, you know how like strangers were a little bit more trustworthy. You see a stranger down the road, you as a kid, you go, "Hey, hi, how's it going?" It's like, "Hey, whatever." It's like, "Oh, here to have a quarter." I don't know, like you never go, "Where is he taking me?" Now it's a little bit danger. Stranger danger. When I was a kid, it didn't feel there wasn't a lot of stranger danger mentality. When I was a kid, right? Yeah. And I remember just a knock on the door during summer. My parents are at work and we're at home. My grandma lives the apartment downstairs, so we were okay. But I just door and I open. It's like, "Oh yeah, my name is this. I'm here to like show you." And she had books and pencils and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
I'm like, "Okay, come on in."
Different times, man. Different times.
So I'm wondering like what program was I in back then? But going back to having your dad here, I can definitely handle the Spanish.
Okay, cool.
And it'll be good practice for me too. But I always wondered, when did that subconscious voice change?
What year did you graduate high school?
I would be in class of 08.
Cool. Oh, okay, so you're just 1 year older than I am.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I do remember like on the subject about learning. I think they call it, I don't know if it's ELS or they have an acronym for it for like when your first language is not English,
right? And
you're learning English, and they would pull. I remember like even in high school, like once a year they'd pull a bunch of like non-first language being English speakers, which were mostly all Spanish, like Mexicans. Yeah. And I remember that was weird for the first time when I saw like a Filipino kid in there. And they're like, "What are you doing here? I thought this was like for Mexicans." Yeah.
That's such a normal thing for Mexicans.
The teacher was like, No, this is for anyone whose first language wasn't English. And I was like, "Oh, okay." So then they would do like the testing to see how we're picking up on English. But I mean,
it could have been that. It could have been that. I just don't remember any of the kids around me when I was separated.
That's funny. No, I remember that since I was little in elementary school, they would do that. And I remember, so I was born here in San Luis, went to first half of kindergarten here in SLO. I forget the name of the elementary school. And then I did half of kindergarten in Mexico, the back half of kindergarten, the first half of first grade in Mexico, and then came back and started the second half of first grade in Grover Beach Elementary School, which was a more diverse school. There was a lot of Spanish-speaking kids, and so they had like Spanish-speaking classes. Like you're just in class, and the class is in Spanish. So it was like no big deal. I didn't really think much of it. Yeah. And like the English I knew was just from like, I don't know, like Nick Jr. or whatever you watch back then. It was like whatever. It was really an easy transition.
5 o'clock in the morning.
Something.
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Z. I love Dragon Ball Z. That was one of my favorite cartoons growing up. Yeah. And then I remember in second grade, I moved to a different side of Grover Beach. We went to Grover Heights, and that was like not diverse at all. But I was like all white kids, and I was like one of the few Spanish-speaking kids in the entire school.
Did you feel like got like a culture shock when you got there?
Slight culture shock. Not so much because I think as a kid, I didn't really notice that there were,
well, as a kid, we don't notice a lot.
Yeah.
Like, we're just like, hey, you want to play ball?
Exactly. Yeah. But what I did notice was like, I didn't fit in with like, because I wasn't as fluent in English, and I wasn't like speaking and writing in English the way all the other kids were. And I remember sitting in second grade, like away at the edge of the classroom with like a person dedicating time to help me like learn. And I would like cry because I'm like aside from everybody and everyone else is learning and engaging. But I remember picking it up on it quick. Like I was quickly like got the hang of it because I spoke enough English. Yeah. I just didn't know how to like read it and write it. Yeah. And so I remember one of the first words like I learned how to spell was nest. And like I was like I remember NEST on the little board that I had on the side. And then I don't think that lasted very long because I remember quickly I just went back to the regular classroom and they're teaching up front and I was picking up on it and all that good stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
It's very interesting to think about all that stuff because like in moments when I'm having these conversations, I do have those side thoughts where I'm like, how? How?
Yeah.
So as you're training the horses, is there anything? What's the tough side of it? Because obviously you love it, but what's something that people don't understand or underestimate as far about training horses? Obviously, it's tough to clean the feet, the shoes, the hooves, and brushing them seems like a really cool passing time, stuff like that. But like, what's the hard stuff? The poop, cleaning up after them.
It's a lot of physical work. I think sometimes a lot of people and I'm just going out based on my experience when people ask me certain questions or we interact, their lack of knowledge of how big this animal is and the danger around them. Not that they're dangerous in an aggressive, mean manner, so much as in if you don't watch your step around them and they step on you, like that's a 1,000-pound animal stepping on your toes.
They just broke your foot.
Yeah. They can. I've gotten my toe stepped on, but like I'm quick enough that I can, I pull it off the way, but I've had bruised toes for sure. Yeah. Another thing is like they're animals of prey. So they're very like always kind of on guard. So any sudden movements spooks them. Yeah. And if people do sudden movements around them, it spooks them and they can like kind of spin around and they're not trying to hurt you, but because they're so big and if you're in their bubble and they suddenly move and spin around.
Get knocked out.
Yeah. Or like never walk behind a horse. Like I remember learning that as a kid and like I just I didn't have to be told twice about it, but people have to be told multiple times, hey, don't walk behind this big horse. And like they're visiting and I'm telling them to like respect the animal around them, just be aware. And like I'll tell them and they'll still walk behind them. And these animals that ours are really, we really work a lot with them to be easy and like tempered so that they're not so crazy. But if it's like a horse that you don't know, like us, when we come around a horse that we don't know, we know to respect our distance, watch out for them, and we never walk behind them and we never do sudden movements because we know that. But like even after telling someone to not do those things and they still do them, it's like, so that's like one of the things is like, it's hard to get that point across. And then dealing with them as far as working with them, for me personally, I'm kind of an impatient person with certain things. Like I want to see progress quick sometimes and I'll get impatient. I'll get kind of frustrated. So you need a lot of patience with these animals. Okay. And there's some guys that are really good and they're gifted with their patience. And I'm like, man, that's why you're a trainer. Because it takes a lot of patience because it's a lot of repetition. A lot of repetition. And it really does take years to have a horse to be fully trained. And then on that same thing is like what's hard working with them is us being quote unquote horse trainers for a small period of time. Yeah. And then knowing other horse trainers and having friends that are horse trainers and then having friends that have horses or want to get into horses and they buy a horse and they don't know anything. So they're going to send the horse to get trained. They want that horse to be trained like within a few months. And I'm like, no, dude, this takes years. And they're like, and they want to see results so quick so that they can stop paying the trainer. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, you're going to see those quick results or whatever results you get. Let's say I don't know, 6-10 months before the year is up or a year and a half is up and we're like, okay, he's good. You take the horse away. You don't know what you're doing as a rider. Next thing you know, within a few months, the horse is like confused on what's going on. You're like, hey, this horse doesn't know what he's doing. It's not that the horse doesn't know what he's doing. You don't know what you're doing. Yeah. The rider needs to be educated on how to ride, how to do the cues, how to saddle up the horse, all those things.
Yeah, it's funny. Like when we're talking about training, like I think about like dog trainers too. It's very similar. Like you can train the dog, but it's the owner. Like they feed off of that energy. They feed off of everything. Like just how you greet your dog when you get home. if you come in, hey, how's it going? It's too much energy. You have to like literally get in, make sure everything's calm, and then approach the dog and be like, all right, hey, how's it going? Like then show him love. Because it's like one of those things where like you don't want him jumping on people who just show up at the door either.
Yes.
You know, same thing with the horse. Is like you want to make sure they're in that habit of not being too excited or not being worried of what's behind them all the time like you did.
Yes. You know? It's like energy. They're real, and you hit the nail on the head right there with like using the dog analogy right there, because dogs also feed off energy. For example, a dog, though there are different breeds of dogs and they're used for different things, and there are certain breeds that are going to be better security or guard dogs. Yeah. Naturally, instinctively, dogs are territorial and they protect what's theirs. So if a stranger comes onto your property, whether they're wanted or unwanted or uninvited, if they show fear to that dog, that makes that dog uneasy. Especially if it's like we used to have a golden retriever, super friendly dog. But like if you upset our golden retriever, it's like, dude, you messed up because you did something to upset that dog. Like he's a super chill dog. They're like he's gonna kill you with kindness and lick you and want cuddles from you. Yeah. But when he would get aggressive a couple times, it's like, oh, because he sensed something was off. Like I had a pit bull also. He was super friendly, but he was also a very good guard dog. He would bark at people outside of our property. We had to get together and some friends came over and they brought in a stranger that's their friend that we don't know. And our dog's super cool with people that are in our backyard. Super cool. Never was aggressive with anybody. But he was being aggressive with this one person, and this person was trying to befriend them. And I didn't know this gentleman, and I'm like, hey, bro, leave my dog alone. Like, he doesn't like you for whatever reason. Just chill out. Leave him alone. And he backed off for a little bit. Then he tried to befriend him again, and our dog growled and nipped at him. And I was like, hey, you know what, man? I don't know you, but you got to go. My dog don't like you. That's enough for me. And you keep trying to, like, befriend him, and he doesn't like you, so... You gotta go.
No means no. Yeah. And dog bark.
Bro, if a dog's barking and growling at you, man, like, come on.
I said stop. But we'll talk a little bit more about the horses, but I do want you to bring value to whoever's listening about everything else. But one of the things I do, since you know history about horses and all that stuff, so there's different horses for different things. I'm curious. Have you ever encountered a horse that nobody ever trained him to dance, but you knew it was a Spanish horse? Did you ever like turn up the music and see if it would dance just out of genetics?
So yes, that's a really good question, because there are horses that, like you said, different breeds are for different things. And just because it's a Spanish horse and they're bred for the dancing doesn't mean that they're going to be a good dancing horse. We've encountered that personally. Now there can be the opposite also. So we work with mostly Spanish blood-derived horses, some purebred horses known as Andalusians, or in Spanish they're called Pura Raza Española, PRE. Those are like the main horses that we work with. And more common around here, American cowboys, Western workers, they're working with what's called a quarter horse, American quarter horse. So back in like the 50s, some Mexico horsemen, enthusiasts, horse trainers were like, Mexico doesn't have a national horse, and yet the horse is such a huge part of our life. Yeah. Let's come up with our own breed. And so what they did is they crossbred the Spanish Andalusian with the American quarter horse, half and half, and they allowed up to 1/4 of the, kind of like what I would equate to an American Mustang, like a wild horse. In Mexico, there's like they're called criollos. Out there, they allow a small percentage of a horse to be in that bloodline, and there's a whole breeding process, man. Like I really like it, so I'm gonna take it down. Yeah, you asked me something.
It sounds like you're making a cake right now. Like, hey, dude, did it take a pinch of this?
Yeah, pretty much.
But it takes generations to get all it together, yes. Right?
So I have a horse right now that I'm working that took 3 generations, and it's been like almost 12, 15 years coming.
That's insane.
Yeah. So we have the Spanish Andalusian. We have the American quarter horse. You breed those two horses together, and you have what's called the first generation Azteca. And that's the national horse for Mexico, is Caballo Azteca. And that would be called a Class D. So follow me with fractions a little bit. I don't know how familiar you are with fractions back from school or percentages. So that's one half. So half Spanish, half quarter horse. a 50-50, right?
Right.
Now, let's say that offspring that's half and half, Class D, first generation Azteca, you breed to a quarter horse. That offspring from that breeding process would be 3/4 quarter horse, 1/4 Andalusian. Mm-hmm. So, 75% American quarter horse, 25% Spanish Andalusian. Now, you breed that with the opposite, an animal that is 75% 3/4 Andalusian, 1/4 quarter horse, 25% quarter horse, which is a Class B, and the other one over here being a Class C. They're both second generation, but they went like opposite ways after the first breeding. They breed those two together, and you bring the bloodline back down to half and half, 50-50, and that's a third generation known as a Class A Azteca. And I have a horse right now that is a Class A, and I bred him with the intention of having him be more of my charro horse. I want him to do more charro style work with, there's this thing called, in Spanish, we call them colas. I don't know how familiar you are with any charreria at all.
No.
What part of Mexico is your family from?
Oh, man. I want to say Durango from my mom's side.
Okay, Durango?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know if you knew this. Charreria is Mexico's national sport. People will say soccer, but they're like, dude, no, bro. Charreria is Mexico's national sport. So there's different events, and it's like comparing it to American rodeo. There's like, there's bull riding, there's sorting, there's pinning, there's team roping. Same in Mexico, there's different events. There's different types of roping. There's bull riding. And then there's one that I'll translate. In Spanish, it's called colas. So I translate it in English and I call it tailing. Mm-hmm. Essentially, it's almost like American rodeo has steer wrestling, where they let the steer out of a chute, and there's two horsemen. One gentleman's keeping the bull in line, and the other one jumps off of his bull, grabs him, and takes him to the ground.
Yeah,
so it's similar to the aspect where we're knocking the steer down. The steer is being let out of the chute. The rider's right there waiting for the steer out of the chute. They reach down for the tail and grab him to flip the calf over. Mm-hmm. So I bred him to be short and stocky for that reason. But I really like the Spanish blood, and I like the history of the Azteca horse and the breeding process. So I was like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And so, 10 years later, the baby's born. 4 years later, now I can start riding him.
Yeah. I know it's hard to put a price on it, but does that add value as you breed them this way?
It is hard to put a price on it. It's a relatively still newer breed. It's still getting known around these parts. It's known, and a lot of people just know about the first generation Class D, half quarter horse, half Andalusian, and they don't know more about the breeding process of the history. So I have this conversation with a lot of people, and a lot of guys, like Mexican guys, like if they're not real big familiar with math, I lose them like quick. And I'm like, I'm fascinated by it, man. This is like it's awesome for me. So I bred him to be a more of a rodeo type of horse, and the trainer has been working with him to do what we call in Spanish malacatear or lados, and it's essentially the horse is spinning. And that's part of a reining process. He keeps one foot still, and he'll spin in one direction, then spin the other direction while keeping the other foot still. And that's like showing how well he is trained with his reining skills. And then there's another thing where we run, and then we ask them to stop, and they go sliding for a long distance.
I feel like I've seen that like in a movie or something.
Yeah, you'll see him in the old charro movies like Vicente Fernandez or Antonio Aguilar for little parts.
Yeah.
And so I went down to visit the horse this past weekend, and the trainers had him for a few months, and he's like, Nate, I know you want this horse to be your charro horse, and he's getting the reining and the sliding really good. But he tells me in Spanish, pero este caballo es bailador de corazón. he's like, his heart is for dancing. And that horse that I'm telling you about, we used to have his dad, and we still have his grandpa, my dad's horse. And so my dad's had his grandpa for like 15 years, I think, almost 15 years, over 10 years we've had him.
What's the typical lifespan of a horse?
If you take really good care of them, health-wise, they can live up to 30 years old. Yeah. So I'll tell you this. My dad's horse, I'm telling you right now, his grandpa, his horse's name is Napoleon. We love that guy. He's about 22 years old, going to turn 23 at the end of this year.
Oh, wow.
And he will dance his heart out. He still dances. He's an awesome horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned to ride on that guy.
That's awesome. Yeah, so now you have the grandson, and you're working with him. Did they? So they told you like este caballo es para bailar, right? Or, I'm guessing you've seen him dance.
Yeah. So It's funny.
What kind of emotions brought forward?
Oh, I just joy. Yeah. I was like overjoyed, like to see what he's like, where his training's at, and to see how he's grown just in the last half a year since I sent him off. Yeah. Like how because it's training, they're working out, it's exercising, they get built, and just to see how he's filled out, I'm like, oh man, he looks so cool.
That's my boy.
Yeah, I was like, what's up, bud? And I'm like talking to him and petting him and stuff. And it's funny. I have another buddy here that trains horses locally, and since he was a young colt, like I'm talking like less than a year, and he's out in the pasture running around with the mares, we start to kind of look at certain features and certain movements and behaviors to see what we like and what we don't like, and kind of envision what this animal's going to grow up to be. And since he was young, he had a very elegant trot. And once we started halter breaking him, grabbing him and handling him just to do groundwork, cleaning his hooves, and we call it lunging when they got like the lead rope, and then we're asking them to run around in a circle, and we're holding them in the middle, and they're running around us. You can see their trot and how their gait moves as they're moving their arms. And one of my friends, he tells me, "No, compa, yo sé que usted quiere este caballo para charrear, pero este caballo va a ser de baile." Yeah. And I was just talking to him yesterday. We had a vet come out to check one of my uncle's horses. And I was like, "Pariente, ¿se acuerda lo que me dijo del caballo?" Dijo, "Hey." And I showed him the videos. "No, yo le dije, pariente, este caballo va a ser para el baile."
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So you guys have participated in the Pioneer Parade. And I want to fast forward because I also want you to talk about your plumbing business.
Sure.
So you've been out there. Those who are in Paso know you guys at some point, right? Or at least have seen you in a couple parades. The pandemic happened in 2020. What changed? How did you have to pivot? Because you mentioned the 08, 09, market crash or the housing market crashing. There's a pandemic stopping everything in their tracks. Yeah. How'd that go? What were you guys thinking, and what made you jump into the next profession?
So the whole 08, 09 stuff happened. We started focusing a little bit more on the horses with breeding and training and that kind of a thing. As time's going by, like 2015, 2016, things are starting to pick up again. We start working with my dad's music a little bit more. And I have this idea. He already has performed at some local community events, at the fair, does weddings, baptisms, that kind of stuff, quinceañeras. And a couple of clients had asked for the horses because they've seen him, promote it on his social media, and they've seen him in the parades. And in Mexico, he did some shows.
You want to give a shout out to any social media that you guys have?
Oh yeah, totally. You guys can follow my dad on either Facebook or Instagram, Manuel Enrique. He comes up right quick. And then you guys can follow me. I have the plumbing page, Santos Bros Plumbing, on Facebook and Instagram. You can also look up the Famous Dancing Horses on either Facebook or Instagram. And Rancho Los Santos is also on either Facebook or Instagram. Your hat that I got you says Rancho Los Santos on it.
Sweet. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you for the shout out right there. So things started to pick up. He's doing the shows. And so I get this idea because we had kind of told a couple of clients no. A couple of clients asked us, like, "Hey, I want to have a party and I want to have the horses there, but we don't have a space for that. Can we rent your ranch and have our party at your ranch?" Oh. And once we got asked that question like once, twice, and we kept saying no, I thought to myself, I was like, well, no. You've always heard that phrase, the customer's always right. You don't tell your client no. So I told my dad, I was like, well, we got to figure this out. We got to do something here because that's a transaction that we're missing out on. So we started offering my place out as a venue. We started doing that, and then I started thinking to myself, okay, well, if my ideal customer for this service of entertainment with dancing horses needs to have the space, and it's also the way that it prices out, it's not inexpensive. I thought, who would be my ideal customer? And I started networking, going to different events here locally, Chamber of Commerce events. I met at HBA events. I went to Toastmasters, BNI's, Business Networking International. And I met some people, and then I thought, wineries, they have plenty of room. They have their VIP members. It's, something cool that their guests can enjoy. So sure enough, shout out to Sculptura Winery. I met the owners there. I don't know if you know them. I think they're right down the road over here, this way behind Lynn Road. I don't know if you've ever been out there to Sculptura Winery.
I've been there.
Yeah, it's
actually,
really nice.
On another podcast, I had Anthony, the winemaker, their son.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I got to know him a little bit too.
Oh, right on. Yeah. Okay, cool. Paloma, Paul's wife, was a part of the HBA at the time. She was like, "Oh yeah, we can definitely help you out. Maybe you can come do a demonstration at our winery. That way, our guests can kind of see what it is that you're talking about." Mm-hmm. Because the people that aren't familiar with what a dancing horse is, they can't seem to imagine what it is, and they're like, "Yeah, like the horse is actually dancing. The horse is dancing."
Yeah.
So we did a demo out there, and then we actually ended up doing a quinceañera out there, and I gave the quinceañera some horseback riding lessons. She rode in on horseback. Through networking, someone else knew about us. We did some weddings. I gave lessons to the bride and grooms riding on horseback, picture sessions, performed at the weddings, my dad singing with the horses, and then we had multiple horses dancing. Had a buddy that's just trick roping. We're out there trick roping for entertainment. And then one of our clients that hired us the most was Dow Winery. We did a lot of shows up there. And that was right before the lockdowns were happening. And at the time, right before that, I had started working with my uncle. This is kind of where it transitions from the plumbing to the horses. My uncle's company down in San Luis. Shout out to him, Izzy Plumbing. I learned plumbing through him. And plumbing is awesome. It's awesome to help people out. But between plumbing, being underneath a house in the attic or under a sink, trying to fix something, do horseback riding, I enjoy horseback riding a little bit more. So I thought to myself, I'm going to get away from plumbing and I want to go all in on this horse entertainment business and really do something with this. And started picking up traction, doing more shows, getting our name out there. And then boom, lockdowns, no more parties, social distance, don't make any get-togethers happen. I'm like, oh no, why? We're just barely getting started. We had a really good year, 2019. And I was like, I can't believe, this is how well it went when everyone whom I talked to was like, that's a horrible idea. Who's going to want to do that? And I was like, well, sure enough, there's some people that want it. And then we already had 4 contracts lined up for the following year, and we canceled them. And I felt I don't want to like charge them like a deposit because I was like, it's not your fault that there's a beer bug going around.
Yeah, the world went to crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, man, to me, it's like, what a slap in the face from a higher power. But I think it always brings opportunities. Any kind of, hiccup or bump, in my head, I'm always thinking like, okay, how can we work this? Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing you started transitioning back to plumbing because that was an essential worker right there.
Yeah. That was needed. And so that's pretty much where that came from. We share on our social media, Snapchat, Instagram, every now and then, what we're doing on a regular basis. Oh, I'm out here fixing this, or I'm plumbing this in, or what have you. So our followers on social media, mostly our friends, people that we know that we know plumbing, service, and repair type stuff. Yeah. So because people aren't traveling, they're not having get-togethers, they're going crazy at home. That drip is finally starting to get annoying. Yeah. That water heater from extra usage finally failed. They're like, well, you know what? I didn't spend these thousands of dollars on traveling and on vacation, so I might as well remodel that bathroom. Yeah. And so we did a bunch of work like that, just word of mouth through friends, and all of it out of a little blue 4-door Toyota Corolla, man. Oh, my brother and I, yeah.
Yeah, because I saw your truck outside today, or your vehicle, and it's a pretty big van.
Yeah, yeah. It means business.
Yeah, it definitely means business. I'm pretty sure I've seen it around. So you started out with the Toyota Corolla, Toyota Corolla? Uh-huh. So it's just a regular sedan?
And that's where we put all of our tools and
when you pulled up, what do people say? Like, were you worried that they were going to like judge you or anything?
No, because it was all word of mouth, people that we knew.
Oh, okay.
So it's
they're already okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've always been kind of a little cautious with those sort of things, like because I wasn't licensed at the time. I didn't want to work for anyone that wasn't someone that I knew, in fear of getting in trouble, slap on the wrist, or someone trying to pull a fast one and not paying us because we've heard stories like that. Yeah. So everything was always word of mouth, people that we knew. And it was really people only that we knew. And then when they would recommend us, we'd really like dot our I's and cross our T's and be like, who are you? How do you know us? And we'll go out there, check it out. And I'd tell people, I'm not a licensed plumber, just so you know. Yeah. We're not licensed. We're not insured. We're not bonded. Cash. It's all cash. You're not going to get a receit.
No invoice.
Allegedly, they got no receipts. Allegedly, we did some plumbing work. I don't want to self-incriminate. I helped out a friend in need.
You went over, you were having a beer, you helped out a friend.
Pretty much. They did celebrated with the carne asada. Yeah. And we called it good. So we did that. And then we just, light bulb went off. I'm like, you know what? Well, this is always needed, whether there's a lockdown or not, whether it's raining or not raining, it's a hot summer or not. If people don't have hot water, they want the hot water. If their drains aren't draining, the tub is full and they can't shower, they can't use their porcelain waste removal system, they want that stuff to get fixed. So we're like, all right, well, I'm going to go get my license. I applied for it. I got signed off by my uncle, got signed off by another property management company that I was working for at the time. Got the ball rolling. I went to take my test after I rescheduled it like 3 times. Finally took it. I passed it first try, thankfully. And and then we're going on our 3rd year in business this year.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, loving it.
Yeah. So what are you doing to get your name out there besides word of mouth?
I do a lot of marketing. Okay. So I invest a lot into like social media. Do a lot of stuff on Google and YouTube.
Like paid posts, right?
So on social media, I did a lot of boosting. So I watched a lot of. I like watching podcasts a lot. I've learned a lot of podcasts, like we mentioned earlier, YouTube University. Yeah. And it's funny how it's transitioned over the years as I've grown up. Like I used to listen to the Joe Rogan podcast before it was cool.
Yeah, me too.
Like way back then, man. I'm talking like the early 100 episodes. Like I think I got around like late 200s, early 300s.
You know what's funny? I think I was way later on, and they already had the curtain studio, right?
Yeah.
But my curiosity went like, okay, he's this popular, or he's having a lot of people. Nobody talked about Joe Rogan with me until 2020, and then that's all they had to do, and then he became popular in my circle, right? So I remember watching him, and I was like, and this whole podcast thing, I started like 2017 myself, like testing it out, doing myself, finding the gear, finding the software. I did YouTube a lot, the hard, the mic reviews, the interface reviews. Like I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'll try this. I was trying the cheap end first, but I always found myself paying later for the expensive stuff. But it was one of the things like, now I know.
Right.
But I remember going and I'm like, okay, I got to see how this guy started. I remember his first episode. I went back. I scrolled all the way back. It was a laptop.
Yeah.
With a webcam. And they were sharing it.
Yeah.
And that's all it was.
Isn't that cool?
That's insane.
Him, Joey Coco Diaz, and Eddie Bravo.
Yeah.
I love those guys, man.
What was his, he keeps bringing back a few. Joey Diaz.
Joey Coco Diaz. That guy's hilarious, man. Have you seen his stand-ups?
I have not, but every time he's with Joe Rogan, I'm like, they're just the power couple.
They're hilarious.
Yeah, I can't stop listening.
Joey Coco Diaz, man, he's like he's an acquired taste bud. Yeah. Like the first time you have beer, you don't really like it. Yeah. At least I didn't. And then you kind of it grows on you. You're like, now you
it's
really.
It's a social thing.
Dude, Joey Coco Diaz, man, like he's not for those the faint of heart. They're like he's a very strong. So if you're not ready to hear his comedy, man, he's hilarious. Though he cracks me up.
No, he's a funny guy. So when I saw that first episode, and I saw he had like a couple of buddies with them, and they were testing it out, and then it wasn't until like the 100th and something, in the low hundreds, 100 and something, where it looked like today's.
Oh, it started looking better.
It started looking where like Jamie was involved somehow, and
on the side with his
laptop, fact checking things.
Yeah, looking things up.
But I remember scrolling back, and I'm like,
you start somewhere, man.
Yeah, you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I started in my kitchen. You can hear the entire kitchen because it wasn't the right microphone. And you can hear the dog barking, dog moving, and then you find out what program and what to use, and then I start thinking to myself like, okay, now I want to put myself on video because it's so easily. Well, and to me, there's a lot of people that still don't know how to start from A to B to begin with.
Okay.
But to me, it was like, okay, now I have to add a video aspect to it. Mm-hmm. And then I started learning that. And then iPhones obviously were freaking game changer because there's software out there that you can. iPhones are for smartphones are for everybody. Like they do so much. User friendly now. So once it became more user friendly, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I'm gonna freaking learn and just practice. But man, what were we talking about?
Podcasting, listening to Joe Rogan. I think I had mentioned how I learned so much about
on YouTube.
And I learned about business, a lot of different business. Like when I used to listen to Joe Rogan in the early Joe Rogan days, and then I listened to different podcasts talking a little bit about self-improvement, and then I like business. and like different plumbing podcasts. I've listened to different horse podcasts, but like now I'm more on the business, financial, marketing. So I do a lot of marketing, and then I learned
marketing. That's what we're talking about. Okay.
I got that idea from a coach of mine that I actually hired as a coaching mentor for the plumbing business.
Oh, okay.
And he talks a lot about marketing. So I was really, really slow, man, like scary slow. This was last year was 2023, February of 2023. I'm like, what did I do? I don't have any work. I have this giant truck I got to pay for. I got bills to pay for. What was I thinking? And it was the year that it rained a lot. So it was like raining nonstop for 2 months, like February and March. Yeah. And in January, there's a bunch of like landslides because of all the rain that we got. And so it was just slow. And I'm like, I need to do something. So I just started going on YouTube University, and just started looking up different plumbers and looking things up. And I came across some awesome conversations with the plumbing business owners. And one gentleman was talking about marketing and how important that is to get your name out there. And so I literally went to his Facebook and Instagram page, and I copied a lot of his social media posts that were memes from different funny comedy movies or whatever. And he like would slap his logo and turn it into a plumbing meme somehow. Yeah. So I started copying, like for the first couple of weeks that I did that, I was copying his, and then I was putting our logo over his logo. And then I started getting creative, and that was a lot of fun, dude. So like that first year, 2023, like that whole year, like all the social media memes. And it's funny, if you go back and you look at our social media on Instagram or Facebook, you can see the difference of when I was doing it to where I hired the marketing team that runs it for me now. Yeah. And I would boost those posts. And within a few months, man, it felt really good once things picked up, like in April, and we're out there on the road and we're doing work, and people are stopping us. Like, hey, I see your memes on Facebook all the time. You guys are hilarious. And they stop us in parking lots at Albertsons, or they stop us next to us on the stoplight, and they roll down the window and they record our truck. 'Cause I see you guys on social media all the time. So I've done a lot of that to get my name out there. I've been on other podcasts here locally too. I don't know if you heard of What's Up North County. Yeah. Yeah, I was a sponsor for them for a little bit last year, and I was a guest on their show a few times. So things like that.
Remind me, I got to ask you about the whole sponsorship thing, because I want to actually learn more on how that works.
Okay. I can connect you with them, and they can show you like how they run it or whatever, and see if that makes sense for you.
Yeah, no, I've actually talked to him before in the past. Okay. Because I used to manage the Park Cinemas. Okay. And I think his kids do sports, so they did something with sports as far as like renting out a theater. They've done. He had a printing company, so he was trying to get us. Employee uniforms, so to speak. And then it never became anything of it. And then like down the road, I see that he's starting this podcast thing, and I'm like, all right, cool. I gotta step up my game a little bit.
Dude, their studio is legit.
It's good. They went all out.
Yeah, they've invested a lot into like some good equipment, like a full on studio, lighting. Yeah, they went all out. They did it really good right there.
Yeah, no, I like what he's doing. I think is pretty awesome. I think here's one of the things that I know for sure in my head and in my heart. Everybody needs a podcast. It's like Facebook right now. Everybody's no, I don't know. Yeah. But at some point, you're gonna be the most famous person in within 15 people that you know.
Yeah. I think it's really important for personal branding.
Personal branding, it's huge, especially if you have a business. Yeah. If you're trying to create something, if you're trying to break out of that 9 to 5. Yep. That's something. Yeah. So.
No, I agree. Podcast is. Do you ever listen to Ty Lopez?
Oh God, yeah. I don't listen to him as much. I know who he is. I remember a while back. This is 2012, 2013, 14, whatever. He was promoting a book, and he was showing off his house, like those kind of videos, like, hey, you want to do this, you know? And then there was like conflict, and there was another person, similar freaking style and everything, talking crap about him. So really? I want to stay away from that world right now. Oh, okay. But I never got back to Ty. Instead, I would listen. For sure, like 2017, I started listening to like obviously Joe Rogan more, and then Gary Vaynerchuk. Okay, Gary V kept popping up in my feed and stuff like that.
He's a big sales guy.
Yeah, it was like, who the hell is this guy? And every once in a while, I'm listening to him, like, okay. So I did what I usually do. I scrolled all the way back to see what he was talking about, and like a lot of the stuff he says comes true. But
Well, what's cool is there's all these different guys, whether it be a Gary Vee, a Ty Lopez, a Bradley, Patrick Bet-David, PBD or whatever. And it's really like, it's like ice cream, dude. Whatever your flavor is, bro. Like you're gonna enjoy your ice cream, whether it's Rocky Road or I'm not a big fan of coconut pineapple, but that thing exists.
Yeah, I think as long as you find your flavor that works for you, and you move and you progress, because there's people that find someone who they're listening to and they get frustrated because they're practicing those things, but nothing's happening. Yeah, and that's because it's not for you.
It's not for them.
It's not working, or you're just not good at it. Yeah, change it up. And sometimes you just have to be like that real with yourself. And it's hard. And I'm pretty sure you probably went through that thought process in that 2023 February month. Yeah. You're like, what the hell did I do? Am I listening to the right people or am I not? And that's when you start, pivoting or at least.
Well, that's when I learned about my plumbing coach, because I like listening to a variety of different podcasts within different genres of topics. Like I listen to a lot of self-improvement ones, a lot of sales ones and marketing ones, like the Ty Lopez, the Bradleys, all those guys. I've listened to Gary Vee a little bit.
Grant Cardone,
10X, or Ed Milet, Max Out, all these guys, right? And when I came across my plumbing coach, and it resonated so much more because it was very niched into what I was doing, plumbing. So like I learned, it made a lot more sense. And then my plumbing coach, he got his thing from Grant Cardone. So I admire what he says. Shout out to him, Jared Williams. He's had his business out in Alaska, now he's in Florida. He actually invited me to be a guest on his podcast, so hopefully I do that here this year sometime. He said, the best known beats the best every time. So it's just like, get your name out there. Yeah. Like you could be the best plumber in the world. Yeah. But if nobody knows who you are, they're not going to call you. No. You know? So.
Yeah. And I think that's why I created this Paso Robles podcast, because a lot of people are hesitant in taking that step of being out there and being known, is where like, all right, I'm going to create this podcast in my studio and get in the hot seat and have them sit down as a guest. Because that's that's a totally different perspective on their end. They're like, okay, if you ask the questions, let me know. And, we can sit down and we have a conversation. I'm like, awesome. We'll do that. And then from there, I promote them on social media with like clips.
The clips. Like that. Yeah.
Those
are big too.
Yeah. Those are huge.
Nice.
And I think that's why I created the show, is because like, okay, I want to show people like, one, it's not hard to do. And if you have the right people as a guest, it flows.
Nice.
There's conversations I've had outside of podcasting where I'm like, I can tell this conversation's not going anywhere. We're not interested in each other. All right, well, I'll see you later, man. I just gotta go, whatever.
Yeah, reach out to me. We'll get something scheduled. Yeah. No one ever reaches out to anybody.
No, because you don't want to. But there's that weird, like, awkward, nobody wants to say it kind of thing. So
that's fine.
It's very interesting. But those willing to take those extra steps, whether it's have their own show or be as a guest, those are good indicators that like they're willing to grow. Nice. For sure, in my opinion.
No, totally. I've done, we got to grow, bro. If you're the same person that you were, what do they say, 5 or however many years ago, it's like, what are you doing? Yeah. I'm not the same person I was in high school, man. And no. If anyone from high school, you're listening to this and you're still the same type of person and you haven't really grown at all, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like, read a book, listen to a podcast, do something, get yourself out of your comfort zone, go network. What are you doing to provide value to this world around you?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big thing, is provide value.
Yeah.
One of the things, speaking of providing value, I'm noticing your posts, you have the similar getup. You got the overalls,
yes, sir,
with the button-up shirt. And so, what is that a look that you just got into the habit of doing, or did you specifically choose that look to promote yourself?
So, I really like that question, because if you notice our truck, the 2 little cartoon characters of my brother and I, the Santos Bros, we're wearing the overalls, and as much as I love plumbing, how I've stated before, and based just off our conversation, I love horses so much more, and like the whole country lifestyle.
So you need a uniform.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to, when I came up with the logo, it's funny. I had that logo, that vision of our branding in my head like 2 years before it was even on the truck. And I just wanted to incorporate my lifestyle of who I am, like my essence as a person, of being a country guy and being a horse breeder and loving that ranch style life.
Yeah.
I wanted to incorporate that into the plumbing. So I thought to myself, well, the overalls, that's like a known plumber uniform. You know, think about like the Mario Bros, for example. You know, who were playing the video games and they're wearing the overalls. But it's also a very ag, you know, country. You know, the Farmer John outfit. I've gotten that. Oh, Farmer Juan over here.
Yeah.
I've gotten that before. You know, and so I rocked the overalls, and then the flannel shirt or collared shirt. These are pearl snaps that I'm wearing right now currently. And, you know, also very, very country like. I got the cowboy hat, my work boots, though they are work boots, they're square toe and, you know, other country boots. And if you look at the caricature, he's got spurs on. And I tell people, oh, it's because I was horseback riding. I got the call, and here I am now.
Yeah.
You know, so I just wanted to embrace that on the logo. And I didn't actually really consider wearing it as a uniform until, actually, I think it was Randy. I was a guest on his podcast.
Oh, Randy Dottie.
Before I was a guest on his podcast, we were talking, and they're like, oh, that's so cool, man. You should make that like your uniform. And I hadn't really thought that much into it. And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then I got myself a pair of overalls, and I wore them, and like, dude, these things are super comfortable. And then there's been a whole bunch of things that have come since then. They're like, oh, yeah, no butt crack. Because, you know, the whole plumber's crack thing.
Plumber's crack,
yeah. So, like, I've played along with that and use it for some memes. You know, like, when you call us, you don't got to worry about no butt crack because we're wearing our overalls, you know? So, little things like that. I've noticed people enjoy being entertained and a good laugh a lot more than to being sold or trying to be convinced on why they should call you.
Yeah.
You know, I've noticed that. And I got that from my coach. Like, and I just had a Zoom call with my marketing company this morning, and they love all these new reels that I've done recently, and I'm just being myself, and I'm not trying to sell anything. Yeah. I'm just sharing and letting you know the type of service that I provide. I'll just make a comment about, you know, the plumbing about it, and then people call us. Like today, one of the ladies that called us like, I just love how much the whole community loves you on Facebook. On she said on Protect Paso, the Facebook group for Paso Robles, the community page. And then on Templeton Proud, we get a lot of calls from Templeton Proud, and that's also one of the parades. That's probably my favorite community event. Like, I love them all. You know, we're from the Paso Pioneer Day Parade. I love the Tamale Festival in Atascadero, but the Templeton 4th of July, I think it's because it's Independence Day, and whether it's a weekend or the middle of the week, like, everyone's so hyped. Yeah, and like, it's 10 a.m., man, and people are drinking. And everyone's just having fun. They're like, there's people out in the middle of the road with the red Solo cups dancing around with the horses. People are giving us drinks. They're giving us cold beers. It's just a very, very fun day. I love that event. And how I said, I wanted to incorporate the horses in my lifestyle with the plumbing business. That's why the wrap is what it is. When we participate in those community events, I'm having that work truck haul a flatbed trailer, and that's where the mariachi band or the banda is playing the music while the horses are dancing through town. Okay. So it's like a 2-in-1 thing right there.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, and then people see it and they're like, "Oh, yeah, you guys are like the ones with the dancing horses." That's actually helped us out when we first got started with the business, and to this day, it comes up in conversation. But when we first got started, when you're first new and people don't know who you are, they're kind of skeptical. Yeah. You know, this guy's new. He's I look young, you know. Yeah. 3 years ago, I looked even younger, you know. So it's like they're like, I don't know, and then like they don't know who we are. Yeah. Like, oh, you know, have you guys seen the dancing horses like at any of the communities? I was like, oh yeah, I've been seeing those guys for years. That's us. We've been here for a long time. Now we started our plumbing business, and we're not going anywhere. You know, our truck is branded and it's color marked. Like with us, we grew up here in the area. Yeah. This is where I plan on living for the rest of my life. So you know, this is where we're at. Yeah, and I think it's for me it would feel like a curveball. Like you train horses, you dance with the horses, you with the mariachis, and then you go, well, we're plumbers. Like, so it's always interesting, like to see what other people's reactions are in the future. You know, when you tell them like, oh, those dancing horses, yeah, that's us. This is the plumbing. But it's funny because that just means you're that versatile. You know, which brings me to the next thing. And if you want to promote it, we can take the next few minutes doing it. But you're now dealing water. Oh yeah, with the water machine with Jenny.
Yeah, because I feel like you're a natural entrepreneur. So obviously you see the opportunities
big time
in a lot of places you go, but you're very specific on what you want to do.
Yeah,
yeah.
So with the water machine, I actually met Jenny last year at the Paso Robles Home Show at the fairgrounds in March. So it's been about a year.
Yeah.
And funny thing is, we're both class of 09 Greyhounds from Atascadero High School. And we never met each other until last year. I'm like, what? And we have mutual friends. We just never crossed paths for whatever reason. So I'm turning 34 this upcoming May. We all go our phases that we go through life growing up as a little kid and junior high and our friends in high school. And after high school, we're always like, finding ourselves. I went through a little hippie phase in my early 20s. I had long hair down to my shoulders. I was like, clean food. I did a plant-based diet for like 6 months, which was really hard being Mexican because I was missing out on all the carne asadas. Yeah. And then I did no carbs during that time for a little while too. So it was super hard not having any. My mom was like fresh homemade tortillas. Yeah. So I went through all that. I learned about, clean food, clean water, clean air, that kind of thing. And I've had customers throughout my history of being a plumber ask me for certain different types of water filtration systems or, RO systems. And what I learned back then about RO systems is that often a lot of those systems are so good at filtering the water that they're not just filtering out all the bad stuff that we don't want in our water, like the chlorines and the, fluorides or what have you. They also filter out the good stuff, the magnesiums, the potassiums, things that our body needs. And so what happens when you're drinking that water that is essentially dead water with no nutrients in it, it's not really doing anything to you. It's almost like depleting you of energy. And science finally caught on to that and is now like, oh, snaps. We shouldn't be drinking dead water. Yeah. We need those minerals.
Yeah.
So it used to be, there was like 2 or 3 stage RO systems that would filter out all those bad things. Now there's like 4 and 5 stage where after they filter everything out, then they add the stuff back in, which to me just seems redundant. And I can't get really behind that product and say like, this is a great product. Personally, from the research that I've done, and there could be more information to learn about that might change my mind on that perhaps.
Yeah. But just to make sure your plumbing experience is helping you decide or find these things out.
So I found out about water during my hippie phase. And then when I became a plumber, and I was working for my uncle's company and coming across RO systems, I had that conversation with a few people, but some people don't want to hear that or they kind of like disregard it. So like I switched up my communication with them. I'm like, whatever system you want to get installed, I'll install it for you.
Okay.
Because if that's what they want, I'm going to install it for them. I can give you my 2 cents and opinion about it and you kind of, decide for yourself what works best for you. So time has gone on. I'm licensed now. I have my own company. And again, the questions come up, what's a good system? And I kind of didn't really know enough still to give them like the best answer. So I've done a lot more research since then. And since especially working with Jenny, and I'm actually going to be taking some courses on like water quality to learn more about it, to be more knowledgeable and speak on it. Cause it's a big thing.
Yeah.
I'm doing water analysis and testing it out. But when I met Jenny and I talked to her about her water machine, like everything that she spoke about and what the machine stands for and what it does, it made perfect sense for me because I learned about that, like I said, during my hippie phase about RO water being dead water and having all the nutrients sucked out of it. It has a small carbon filter, pre-filter before the water goes through its electrolysis process through the machine. And it's not really so much that you're getting filtered water. That's not like the key thing with it. Yes, it has a small pre-filter carbon filter that's going to help filter out some of the chlorines and whatnot. What it's going through, the electrolysis process and creating hydrogen-rich water, that's what you want because H2 is what's the antioxidant, which is going to make you healthier and help you get rid of the bad stuff in your system. And like hearing stories like Jenny's, like her health complications that she had, having a friend that had been drinking the water for so long and kept telling her. And finally she was like, oh, all right, I'm going to give it a shot. To then no longer having those ailments. And disclaimer, I'm not saying this thing's going to cure anything. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. Allegedly, some folks have drank the water when they were sick and now they feel better. Yeah. If you were going through something physically with your health and if you feel like you're at a dead end, maybe you're at a wall or something and you want to try something new, more on the holistic route, natural, give this a shot. You know, we do the water shares, water trials. Yeah. We'll get you some jugs of water. Miguel has a water jug here. I don't know if you've started a water trial or if you're interested in something like that. If Jenny talked to you about it.
Yeah, she mentioned it to me.
Yeah. There's numerous testimonials, man, of people that have gotten on their systems, and it resonated a little bit more with me. We have had some family, close relatives in these last few years that have gone through some stuff, and sadly they're no longer with us. And I think to myself, man, if this machine was in our lives and if my family had it, would my Tia still be here? Mm-hmm. I think about that. And so one of the components within our health, we talk about diet, we talk about, exercise. One of the last things that we think about is the water that we're drinking. No. Are you drinking good quality water? You're drinking tap water from the city? That stuff's full of chlorine. And chlorine, we all know it's not good for you to drink a lid full of chlorine. Yeah. Why would you drink it mixed in with your water? And then you're showering in it, the steam, your pores open up, so your skin absorbs the chlorine and the steam of the hot shower. So, I talk about whole house filtration systems. If you want to get the best water for yourself, get a whole house filtration system after we do the water analysis to get rid of all the contaminants in there. Mm-hmm. There are some stuff that we need, the natural occurring minerals in the water that's good for us. And then you get this water machine, most commonly placed in the kitchen for like the whole house family to be drinking from there. You're drinking some high quality alkaline water, rich in hydrogen. Yeah. And to me, it made perfect sense. I got into it. I see the business side of it. And I don't hide the fact that I'm in it for the business. Okay. Like, I just see different people's testimonies that they have, and I see how positive it is. I got into it for that. I'm thankful, and I thank God, and that I'm blessed that I don't have any sort of things like that I'm dealing with myself. But hopefully, thanks to having this water in my life, maybe I won't even ever have to deal with that. Who knows? Who knows? That's all I drink. Yeah. For the most part, I'll have a little something here and there, but it's mostly just the water.
Yeah, because one of the things I'm thinking about is like, oh, do you guys just not drink anything else? The coffee, like,
bro. Some people take it real serious, man. Yeah. So I think you mentioned that we did. Jenny mentioned we did a demo on Tuesday. Yeah. And so that was the first demo that I hosted, and I did the demonstration of the different types of the alkaline waters mm-hmm. and what their properties are and what it does. Yeah. And I made that statement, like, there are some people that within the community that's all they drink. Yeah. And like Jenny, she's real big on that. That's all she drinks. Yeah. And she has there's little inside jokes, like when people are drinking like bottled water or tap water, like that's peasant water. Get yourself some high quality water over here, you know?
Because I'm just picturing like if you go all in on the water mm-hmm. and I'm like, if you need to make ice, do you pour that water? Do you use that?
I mean, I don't think you got to get that extreme. I personally don't get that extreme with it, man. Mm-hmm. Like, the thing is that the water is rich in hydrogen because of the electrolysis process that it's gone through. Hydrogen is a gas, mm-hmm. so it dissipates. Okay. So the best time to drink that water is when it's freshly poured out through the machine. If you boil it, I think there's science that says you're pretty much boiling the gas out of it because it's bringing up temperature, it's dissipating. Yeah. It's not going to be as rich. I think that's the case. If you freeze it, there could be something else going there too, something else happening because it is science. It's frozen. Maybe it contains a little bit, but as you thaw it out and you put it in your glass of water or what have you, it'll probably start dissipating as the ice is melting also.
Yeah, because I think one of the things that was mentioned was like a shelf life situation, right? You can't make it or pour it into a glass bottle and leave it on the shelf for a month.
No, no, because of the gas. Think about like a Perrier or a Pellegrino.
Once you open it,
the gas is gonna go flat within a couple of days or whatever, So it's similar with this because hydrogen is a gas. Mm. So I think that's why when we do the water shares, we do 2 gallons for 3 days, or like a gallon a day, 3 gallons. So you want to drink a gallon a day, and then on your 4th day, you want to pick up a new batch, in the morning or at the end of the day, what have you. Or the day beforehand. And I think they did the study where like by how long is it like flat? And I think it's 8 days. That's when it's completely flat. But like every day is going down gradually. Within 3 days, you're still getting a lot of the benefits. It's still enough of it. But by the 4th, 5th day, it's less. Yeah. So it's like,
I guess just with anything else, like if food goes bad within a week, most likely there's not a lot of stuff that was done to it, like bad stuff. Mm-hmm. But if have you ever seen the cheeseburger that teacher put in like a
McDonald's
glass box.
The McDonald's
cheeseburger still looks the same 10 years later.
Yeah, all the preservatives that's in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good thing if it doesn't have a long shelf life.
Yeah. Well, because everything is like everything that's natural, organic, and like fresh. Yeah. It's gonna go bad. It's gonna rot.
It should.
It's natural. So like talking about like our family being from Mexico, and I don't know if you ever go back there and visit, or if you ever spend any time living down there, but like myself, even yourself, like if we go to live in Mexico for a few months to like a year, we're gonna lose weight.
Oh yeah,
because everything there is fresh. Like the butcher shop around the corner is literally from the Don Agustin's rancho at the edge of town. That's where the meat came from. I
remember like. I mean, I was really young and like, I'll go get some tortillas at the store. They didn't say the store, La Tienda.
La tortilleria.
La tortilleria, and like they live above and they have their tortilleria
downstairs. Molino.
Yeah,
they have a molino. So you grow your own corn. My family in Mexico grows their own corn. They have their own dry corn, and they go to lleva el nixtamal al molino. They take their bucket of maize that's already been sitting in the water. Mm-hmm. They take it to the molino, and then they grind it up, and they give you the masa, and then you take the masa back home, and they make tortillas fresh. Yeah. Unlike here, who knows how long that stuff's been in the plastic sleeve
and then you put it in the fridge to hold it longer,
Yeah, man.
There's definitely something that speaks volume when you see how fast it goes bad or how long it lasts.
Yeah.
Granted, there's some things that are natural and do last longer, but it has nothing to do with, health wise. It's like a snack or something like not freeze dried, but like what's the other process besides freeze dried?
Would you like dehydrate it?
Dehydrate. Yeah, you can dehydrate things all you want.
Like a banana or an apple, or like the dry meat when you jerky it.
Yeah, when you jerky it, you're not doing bad things to it. You're just having a little snack later. Yeah. But so you've done quite a bit, and you mentioned something earlier about going to Mexico for a first half of your school year. Mm-hmm. Why'd you guys move to Mexico for a short period of time?
So I think just conversations that I've had and I've heard over the years, and I think you might be able to relate to this. A lot of our families that immigrate here se vienen al norte para trabajar, ahorrar y regresarse.
Okay.
So that was my parents' plan also, and my parents met over here. They didn't meet in Mexico. So my dad's from Guerrero and my mom's from Michoacan. They met down in South County, Five Cities area. Yeah. They met, they hit it off, got married. They started the family. We're born here. But the thought was always like, we're going back.
It's funny because now that you mentioned that, my mom still has that thought. She's going to go live the rest of her life back there. And I'm like, why?
How funny do you think she's like? Is it really really? She just says it, but do you think that's really gonna happen?
I don't think that's gonna happen. But she says that it's like, oh yeah, we're nos estamos alistando para.
My dad says that too, and I'm like, "Bah, come on, like."
Yeah, you're not.
You've lived here more now than you ever did in Mexico. Like,
yeah, it's funny. I think it has something to do with like pride or just like. I'm never going to, it's like if I were them, I was like, I'm not going to let them know I don't want to go back,
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where it's funny that they still say that. Even to this day, Mom was like, me voy a vender todo. I'm going to cash out my 401k and we're going to, and Ensenada. And I'm like, what?
I think part of it is patriotism. I think, in my opinion, culturally speaking, I think nuestra raza as Mexicans, we're very patriotic. Yeah. And I think even though we're here in this country, in the U.S., and I say we because I'm Mexican American. I was born here. Yeah. The U.S. is my country, but my parents are from Mexico. My roots are from Mexico. Yeah. We have that love for our homeland. Yeah. And so like my dad still goes back to visit every year. He just got back. And he was just telling me recently, like, estoy construyendo esto. Para cuando me vaya de regreso. And you know what? Yeah. And I think he will, or my parents will. But because like my brother, for example, he just started his family, and I'm gonna, I'd like to have a family one day, and I'm gonna be here. Like my family's gonna grow up here. I wouldn't mind living in Mexico part time, but like my life is here. Yeah. Like I don't think I would, as of right now, I can't picture myself living long term for the rest of my life in Mexico. Like I don't really see a reason for doing that.
Yeah. No, I don't either. I think if the finances, or if the motivation was still there and the finances made sense, I mean, I think she'd be down for it. But I mean, I just don't see it happening for her. Not saying it will never happen, but it's very interesting. Since I was a teenager, I started hearing,
I've heard that my whole life. Yeah. Our whole life, we're like, we're gonna move back.
Well, as a kid, I never really, everybody said it, but I never like registered it like consciously. It's like, oh, my mom wants to go back. It was more of like you hear it because we're kids, we're playing around, they're talking whatever until like 6 o'clock in the morning, partying, whatever. But no, it's very interesting. It's crazy how like when I talk to you, there's a lot of things you say. I'm like, same thing happened. When I talk to somebody else who I just met in like Mexican background, same thing, So it's funny how like there's a lot of similarities between a lot of families here. You got the Nunez, the Carrillos, whoever, the Santos, and they all know each other too. Our parents probably freaking know each other.
Probably. There's a chance. Yeah, I mean, it's a small town.
It's a small town,
and we know, or they're even if they don't know each other directly, there's like, what is it, like 5 people attached from knowing each other. So like we know someone that knows each other some way or another.
It's funny when I tell my mom about somebody I'm gonna go hang out with, whatever, and they go, "¿Quién son sus padres?" Like,
es el hijo de fulano.
Yeah. Then Don Juan or whatever, and it's just like, you don't know him, mother. He's white. Like,
oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. But well, thank you, Nate, for being here. I'm happy I got to learn a little bit more about you. I definitely want you to bring your dad, and we can do like a Spanish episode for sure.
Oh, that'd be cool, man. Yeah, if you're open to it.
Yeah, I'm down. I think it'd be really cool. One to show his story.
Yeah, he's got a cool story, man.
Yeah. So thank you for coming by, and
I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, it was fun.
Thank you. I want to do one last shout out, if that's okay, for anyone that didn't catch that earlier. To find us on social media, you can find me on Instagram as that 8-Town Cowboy, and then I got the Santos Bros Plumbing on Facebook and Instagram, and as well as the Famous Dancing Horses and Rancho Los Santos.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you.